Free skiing, I mean, that's an extreme sport. Can you tell us a bit what it is? Because I think not everyone around the globe really knows what that discipline really is.
So free skiing is, you're on skis, and the skis look a little bit different from race skis or your typical rental skis because they are twin tips. So the front goes up and the back also goes up, so that allows you to ski switch or backwards. And you'll need to ski backwards because the whole discipline surrounds, it's pretty much like gymnastics. On skis, you're doing flips, you're doing spins. There's a half pipe, which is shaped like this, and you jump out and back in. And then there's another discipline called slopestyle, which is jumps and rails. And then finally, the last discipline is called big air, which is just one big jump. And in terms of skiing, what makes it different from anything else is that it is very expressive, it's very creative. In terms of gymnastics, right? It's beautiful, it's so difficult, but at the same time, there are set difficulties for different tricks. Whereas in skiing, there is no score based on only difficulty. It's scored on difficulty, amplitude, execution, variety, and style. So if you do it differently than anybody else, it'll score higher, even if you're doing the same trick. And everybody will do that trick differently. And so in that way, it makes it really interesting because it allows for a lot of freedom and creativity and self-expression, and it allows you to kind of personalize your own skiing. I always like to say that if everybody was wearing black and everybody was doing the same trick and I was watching from a far distance, I would be able to tell who is who because you can really show your own style and influence into skiing. So that's what I love so much about it.
You achieved your first World Cup victory in Italy in 2019 when you were only 15. What has happened since then?
Wow. A lot has happened since then, I would say. I think what's really fun is because things have happened so fast, I definitely still have the kind of underdog mentality in the sense that I now have enough confidence to enter any competition and have the intention to win, but also not really the age or the time experience to really expect it. So what that means is I feel like it's created a really healthy mindset for me competitively. I have won X Games, I've won World Championships, I've made history as the first person of Chinese descent to ever win X Games. I'm the first female rookie to ever win 3 medals at X Games. I'm the first female rookie to win ski halfpipe. One of my biggest goals in skiing has always been to inspire young girls, especially young Asian American girls or young girls who don't really see representation in our sport yet. And so that is really exciting to me because I've always had that as a goal, but being able to see those records being broken and see myself taking those steps towards it is kind of a mind-bending moment for me. So it's happened really fast, but I'm really grateful for all the people who've been around me, my sponsors, IWC, my family, my mom, my coaches who've supported me the whole time. Right? Sometimes you feel like, as a young person, you feel like, oh, I have to wait until I'm older before I can really make change or before I can really do things that are important and impactful to the world. But really, I think it's important to be a young person and to show that age doesn't dictate capability, and that experience teaches more than anything else. And so, yeah, I think that is my biggest goal, and it's something that I wish I had more of growing up, but also I'm really grateful because I grew up in a very healthy and supportive environment with my mom and my grandma, who are both incredibly empowered women, and who served as the role models that I didn't really see on TV or in this sport or other extreme sports for that matter. So I wanted to be kind of the one to introduce skiing to people, to show people the joy of it, and so that when people think of free skiing, they don't think of a older white man. They think of a young, worldly, biracial girl who is bubbly and likes to do a bunch of different things and has this genuine passion for the sport. And that was probably my biggest goal. And now, looking in China, it absolutely has paid off. I see, before there were nobody at the ski resorts. I knew everybody who free skied in China because there were only a handful of them. There were probably 20 or 30 people in the whole country who knew about it and who were really doing the sport. And now, I could never count. I show up to a resort and there are just lines everywhere and people are with their families and their friends and everyone's having a great time. And so it's really exploding. So I'm really glad to have even made a small impact in that.
You often say that your Asian American background has shaped your character. Could you describe that a bit, what it really taught you?
I think that growing up between two different cultures helped me a lot with diversity and with understanding and learning, in the sense that I was very aware of the similarities and differences of culture from a very young age. So by the age of 3, I was fully bilingual, and I was noticing the little differences in the kinds of food, but also in the way that people interacted over dinner, or hot water versus cold water, right? The age-old debate. And so growing up in that environment, I think, has allowed me to then become more receptive of even more cultures as I grow older. So now coming to Europe more often, or traveling to different cities with kind of different traditions in their own geographical locations, it's made me more receptive to that and made me appreciate it more, I think. So it's something that has allowed me to accept differences more easily, and something that has allowed me to celebrate cross-cultural friendship more easily. And so those are both things that I continue to try to promote.
What does empowering women mean to you?
I grew up in a all-girls K-8 school, and I loved my experience there so much. When I started free skiing, I was the only girl on my team. And it was such a incredibly harsh cultural shock and dichotomy when from Monday through Friday I would be with all girls, and on Saturday and Sunday when I went skiing I would be the only girl. And so in that sense I became hyper aware of my gender and my expression, because I felt like in the beginning all of a sudden everybody around me was male, and when I looked at the great idols of skiing, all of them were male too. And so kind of feeling, should I be ashamed of my femininity? Should I try to be more like the boys? Should I dress like them? Should I talk like them? And would that make me more accepted? Would that make me better at skiing? Would that, these kind of questions went through my mind at a very young age. And I'm really grateful that I had that super strong and empowering educational environment during the weekdays, because I think that it could have been pretty detrimental to my kind of esteem as a female if I hadn't had that foundational support. But I did. And so instead of kind of crushing it down, I learned to celebrate differences, right? And to kind of communicate and make friends and use skiing as a way to create bonds and to create friendship. And so that was a big learning opportunity for me. And it was also a way for me to kind of embrace being a woman and to embrace the innate power that we have as individuals. And so, yeah, it has always been really important to me. In 7th grade, I gave my first speech on women in sports. It later got used as a voiceover for an international brand for their International Women's Day commercial. And since then, in high school, I've led workshops for women in sports. I've led discussions and workshops about female athletes and their portrayal in the media, and how that affects people's perception of female athletes. I think that these are all really important questions that now more than ever we should be asking ourselves, and questions about inclusion and diversity should always be involved in that conversation as well.
We know that social media is really influencing and forming the opinions of many people. So where do you see the benefit of social media?
Social media is a double-edged sword, right? Because I think that especially in my generation, everybody has social media. Everybody uses it as their primary source of information. It's the way that you consciously or subconsciously view what is trendy or what is cool or how to live your life or kind of what goals to set. And so that last piece, I think, can be extremely beautiful and extremely inspiring, or it can be extremely detrimental, depending on which side you end up on. And so in terms of the extremely beautiful side, it shows you what's possible, right? Like through skiing, so many people had never heard of skiing before, and maybe they are scrolling on their Discover page or whatever, and then they see a video of me skiing, and they're like, wow, this looks great, this looks fun, this looks cool, I want to try this. boom, maybe that changed their life. It would have changed mine for sure. And so I think that there's that side. Or they see someone doing something who they didn't think was possible, and suddenly they feel inspired and they think, if she can do it, maybe I can try it too. Or maybe I can enjoy that too. She looks like she's having fun. Why don't I give it a shot, right? That's the best thing. Life is all about joy, right? So that you can find all these different ways to find joy through social media. It expands your perspective and it shows you what's possible. On the other hand, there's the toxic, hurtful beauty standards that can impact young women and men everywhere by seeing unrealistic beauty expectations or kind of lifestyles and unrealistic portrayals of joy that they think maybe if I looked a certain way or had a different amount of money or lived in a different place or had a different job or were born into a different setting, then maybe I would be happy. But I think what social media can really obscure are the beautiful imperfections of reality. So it's a double-edged sword. And so in that sense, I always try to make my social media as authentic as possible. Every few months, I'll do like a question and answer thing to kind of show the more real sides of myself. Because on one hand, I'm not going to post, hey guys, today I had a bad day, period. And that's it. Like, today I fell and it hurt and I didn't feel too great. Like, I'm probably not going to post that. But I do want to kind of show that occasionally. And so I do want to make an effort to converse with people and really say, I'm not perfect all the time. And that's what makes everything fun. Because if you were perfect all the time, then you would adapt to that and that would be your normal. And then you wouldn't feel perfect anymore. And so in that sense, you got to have both sides. And social media is a great way to spread information about both.
I couldn't agree more, but there is this other part, when you are criticized. Mm-hmm. How do you work on this? How do we act on this, when you have critical feedback?
When I first started getting hate, I used to search for it. I think that it's so much easier to hold on to negativity than positivity. And I really love psychology. So I've read a lot of stuff about this and how kind of as animals, the animal brain goes like, oh my God, there's danger. It's more beneficial to remember where the danger is because you want to avoid being hunted. If you can remember where the super sweet tasting berries were hidden in the forest, that's great, bonus points. But like you'd rather remember where the predator's cave is, right? And so it's a lot easier to remember the negative parts. And that really is embedded into you because you could have 1,000 really positive messages and maybe 10 negative comments, but you will remember the 10 negative comments and you will hold on to it and ingrain it into yourself and repeat that to yourself. And so it's really easy to get into that cycle. And when I first started getting hate, I definitely was looped into that cycle. But now I really think that I don't really pay it too much mind because at the end of the day, it's my life. Like, I'm in control of my life, right? If you don't like what I'm doing, you don't have my life. Like, oh, you don't like my new trick? Then don't do it. Like, great, that's good for you. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm entitled to not listen as well. And so it's kind of the sense of I can do my thing and you can like it or you don't have to. My goal is to spread positivity. If your goal is to spread negativity, do that. It's your prerogative, but I'm not going to have any part in it. So that's kind of my philosophy now.
And now we talk a bit about the shared values. We just welcomed you as a member of the IWC family. Which values do you think that we share, that you share with our brand?
There are several values that I share with IWC. One of them is truly being a world citizen, like we mentioned before. It's, IWC is literally international watch companies. So it's international. It's got different people from all over the world. I think it was 55 countries you have employees from. And so there are so many different perspectives and cultures and ideas that are going into the design, the creation, and the production of all of these gorgeous watches. And so there is that aspect which I really love. Another is sustainability, which is really important to me, especially as a winter sports athlete, right? With global warming, our sport is the first one to see the changes, and our sport is the first one to go. Even now, over the years, we can really notice it. Maybe over the summer or in the fall, we used to go to a few locations and we'd be able to ski for months, and now we can only ski shorter and shorter every year. Suddenly it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit at a glacier when everybody was supposed to be skiing, and instead people couldn't even leave their houses because there was a heat wave. And so things like that are really impacting the sport. So being able to hear about IWC's initiative, I was just chatting to someone about it, there was like a 95% paper, like compacted paper watch band that IWC is working on. And so it looks chic. You look at it and it's gorgeous and the design is spectacular, but also you know that it is sustainably made and that it is something that is made to be carried through generations, and that itself is really environmentally friendly.
It's very beautiful what you say about the way we work and the sustainability topic as well. As you just mentioned it, I mean, our watches are built to last for generations. So everything that go into the watch on the entire way from the sketchbook to the wrist needs to be most responsibly done. And talking about your generation now and talking about your thoughts, what do you think, is now your generation, yourself, would you change now to actually go into a better direction for us and our planet?
Someone once told me that we don't need one person to do everything perfectly for the planet. We need everybody to do everything imperfectly, but at least try, right? We don't need one person to hit 100%. We need everybody to hit 70%. And that is how impact is made. So maybe, it's one day I drank from one plastic bottle, I feel not the best, I should have brought my own bottle, but it's not that one bottle that is destroying the planet, it's kind of everybody's combined, ignoring that kind of aspect. If everybody cared more, then the difference would be made in that sense. So it comes differently for different kinds of people, depending on people's lifestyles, choosing different modes of transportation if possible, or eating a little bit differently if possible, or avoiding fast fashion or buying sustainably made products. And it looks different for different kinds of people, and that is what's important about it, right? It's different approaches. So that's kind of my perspective, especially for young people, because it's our planet to be inherited ultimately. And as planet change is exponentially growing, then the impact is very urgent. It's very urgent for us to make change in our generation before things get out of hand even more.
I agree. And I mean, we have a lot of possibilities for a choice, right? I mean, we can choose, as you just described it, and these are the little things as well which matter a lot, and to think before we act. And there is another topic which I would have never guessed, that you are a big fan of the Blue Angels, of the US Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron. How come?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in San Francisco, the Blue Angels would perform every year. And I remember when I was probably in second grade, and they came to our school to talk to us. And I remember I came home so excited. I was telling my mom about the different formations they flew in and the number of people they had and the people who I'd met. And so the next year, I was pointing them out to my mom and my grandma, and I was telling them all about it. And it was really exciting for me. And now, we watch them every year from our balcony because we see them, live like right under where they are. So it's really a spectacular sight to see. And also, I'm a little bit biased because I am an adrenaline addict. So given the nature of my sport and also the nature of flying upside down in a plane, it definitely goes together. Maybe at some point, it would be a dream to go in one of the planes myself, but it is spectacular to watch.
And therefore, it's always very interesting to talk about time. In your discipline as a free skier, time might not be the most important element, as you just described it. But what does time mean to you?
I actually have always been really fascinated by time. That was actually one of the first entries in my journal. And I write about it quite frequently. And I think that ever since I was little, I've always been very aware of the passage of time, which I know is an odd topic for an 8 or 9-year-old to be talking about, but I would often bring it up with my mother and she'd be like, "Are you okay? Is something, why is this what you're thinking about? Why are you not thinking about toys or something? Why are you talking to me about inevitable passage of time? You're a child." But I always thought it was so fascinating, right? Because it's the one constant, it should be the one constant, and yet it doesn't feel like that. Because, when you're little, 1 year feels like so much. And right now, especially as I'm growing older and I'm going through my teenage years, I'm growing into myself and becoming more self-aware during my adolescence, I think that I'm hyper aware of all the changes that are occurring in my own life and the relationship of time to those changes. So I think that it's really such a fascinating thing, and the whole time flies when you're having fun sort of thing. And growing up as a runner and also a skier, I used to think about this all the time, because if I'm running for an hour, it feels like a pretty long time if I haven't been training. But when I start training again and I get into better shape, suddenly I feel like, wow, like it's a breeze, an hour, it feels so nice. And then when I'm skiing, it feels like a blink of an eye. Like I don't even know, I do like a few tricks, I'm talking to my friends, and suddenly an hour is gone. And so really being able to keep an eye on it, I think, is something that I am very fascinated in, and that's why it's really exciting to be partnering with IWC.